Hey everybody, here we are with our Avengers Age of Ultron review. Let's get to it. First things first, Age of Ultron, when I saw it the first time when it first came out, I loved this movie when it first came out. After a few viewings, I started to notice the holes in it a bit more, and I still enjoy it. But it's definitely not the 10 out of 10 that I thought it was, and I think that it happens quite a bit with some movies. You know, you see them the first time and you're blown away, and then the next few times you see them, you start to notice things more and more, and this was certainly one of them. Where is it? It's still a good film. Sorry, I don't know why I lost my train of thought there, and I don't really edit these, so like this is gonna be shite. No. This film. This starts off with, I would say, one of the best opening scenes in any MCU film. Like, the opening to Age of Ultron is just fucking great. Like, they're all storming the castle, and it's just the Avengers action that, like, we came for, Then, the story starts, and there's elements that I like and elements that I dislike. I think the biggest problem with the film is the middle act is very messy. Like, the first act is all Ultron setup and character banter, and I quite enjoy that. One of my favourite things about this film, and most MCU films, is the banter between characters. Like, that is... I prefer that to the action, to be honest. But, no, but then the second act just gets bogged down in everyone needing to have something to do. Like, certain things I do quite like. I like Hawkeye having a family and having a wife and kids. I'm one of the few people, I feel, who actually enjoys the Hulk and Black Widow romance. All that stuff, I felt, yeah, that was good, because, it gives a new layer to Black Widow, because all we'd seen of her so far in the MCU was this sort of cold spy badass, and this felt more of, a different side, a slightly softer side, that, a bit of vulnerability that I don't think we had seen yet. And obviously Hawkeye getting something was well deserved, as he had been greatly underappreciated, and still is greatly underappreciated. He had a whole thing in this movie, and still he couldn't even get in Avengers 3. But, no, and then obviously, and Vision, like, I love Vision. I think he's done really well in these movies. His creation was a bit heavy-handed, I have to say. But, by the third act, he was great in this movie, so I can forgive that. Quicksilver wasn't given much. It's probably a good thing that they killed him off, because, obviously he got the short end of the stick in terms of character development, so, like, it didn't matter really that they killed him off. Like, it was a touching moment, but also because X-Men had, at that same time, had already gotten Quicksilver perfect with Evan Peters, and, the whatever, in, like, the McAvoy-Fassbender trilogy of X-Men films. So, yeah, and obviously Scarlet Witch was great in this movie, she's gone on to be better, but she was really good here, The things also that I liked would be, I feel like I quite liked how they did, how Ultron was created in that sort of, it ties into Tony's character arc. I call it his second character arc, because his first character arc came in his first two movies of, like, him going from this, rich, sort of dickish, charismatic billionaire to becoming Iron Man, and then learning how to handle the responsibilities of being Iron Man. That very sort of basic hero arc over two movies. But then his second arc, which is from Avengers on, that I feel will probably get wrapped up with Endgame, is sort of his trauma and how his connection to Thanos, basically. This movie plays on that, and his guilt and his fear is what drives him to build Ultron, and then obviously in Civil War down the line, side against Cap. So like, I like all that element of it. I think Cap was underused, but he comes across better here than he did in the first Avengers film, because I feel Joss Whedon never fully got Cap as a character, but you could tell he was building off of what the Russo brothers had done with Cap in Winter Soldier a bit, so he's a bit cooler and he's a bit more the Captain America we know now. And the scene where him and Tony are just chopping wood in Hawkeye's back garden, I love that scene. Maybe it's just because Cap pulls a big hunk of wood just apart with his two hands. For some reason I always find that amazingly badass every time I see it. So yeah, the negatives, which I don't always like to talk about, but yeah, it's a mess at times. Like, it's a real fucking mess. The Thor stuff where he goes and bathes in a pool or something, like, he really didn't need to do that. Like, if he doesn't know about the cosmic stuff, how is anyone else gonna know? Like, he should already know this, considering the Infinity Gauntlet, like, the glove is in Asgard's vault, so, like, he should have some knowledge, or, why didn't someone come and tell him, or why didn't he have some form of vision of his own, it just felt unnecessary, and I felt like it just dragged everything down, because there were so many things going on, like taking time out for Thor to go off and do this thing just felt needless. And okay. And then Ultron. I like Ultron as a villain, but because there was too many things happening in this movie, his development got pushed to the side too much. So like, he had so much potential, and I think only a bit of that potential was realized. So I think he was a tiny bit wasted. Like, he's a better villain than half of the MCU's had, but he's not a top tier villain. He's a middle of the road to slightly above middle of the road. Like, maybe he'll be like top 9. Like, he'd probably make it top 10, but definitely not top 5. Like, that's probably majority Phase 3 villains, but no, I don't think he'd struggle to make a top 10 in all reality. Even maybe I'm just being a bit optimistic. So yeah, like I said, there's too many things happening in this movie. It's a bit too heavy in terms of character arcs and just things going on. Like, I sound like a broken record. Fuck. It just feels too weighted down with business. Like, the first act and the third act are both really fun. I enjoy the Battle of Sokovia, but the second act is too messy, and while it remains overall enjoyable, it's not as good as the first one. So overall, I'm going to give Age of Ultron 7 out of 10. My next review will be Ant-Man. So until then, see you.